led some of them to take their own lives as a result.
His storyline doesn't end very well in terms of the story.
It teaches you about things that words can't.
It's all in the heart. It's emotions. And you can't forge emotions. They're just there.
It's got to accept that, you know, maybe some of what you do will be golden, some of what you do will be okay, and some of what you do might not land. But like, that's the risk you've got to take to be able to do what we want to do.
Exactly.
Okay, go for a take.
Let's do this.
And action.
We are going for a take where we get the take of those who work in the film and TV industry of a specifically chosen movie and their time in the business.
To be fair, that was pretty good, dude. Yeah, I think we should keep that one.
All right.
But yeah, so this is our first episode. This is the equivalent of our pilot episode. And like Adam said, usually we're getting guests, but today's like episode 1 of The Office US, where they're kind of finding their feet. Season 3 is where they sort of like get their bearings. So season 3 for us will be episode 2. For now, this is us just like trying some stuff out, see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the guests today. We should talk about the film we're going to talk about too.
Exactly. We're going to talk about Ironclaw today, which we saw. But before that, we should probably introduce ourselves because we are the hosts.
That would be helpful.
So,
I'm Adam Hussain. I am an actor currently starring in Coronation Street.
I'm Matthew Khan, also an actor and currently starring in, I guess I can say, because this will be like released after the announcement, right?
I guess, yeah.
Sick. Starring in Waterloo Road and another show which called, I don't know if I can say that bit.
Yeah, let's keep that
Cut
one.
that bit. Also starring in a show called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder that is coming out later this year.
My name is Ben Stevenson-Langley, and I've got a few projects coming out, but I cannot say anything about them at the moment, unfortunately. So my mouth is shut on that. But yeah.
He's so secretive.
I know.
Always got
My mouth is
projects in the
shut.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ironclaw. What a film.
Ironclaw. It was insane. Yeah, what were you all guys like? Like, did you know anything about it, like going into it?
So, I didn't know anything. I didn't really know much about wrestling either. So watching it, it was really interesting because it teaches you about wrestling and that. Because I thought like WWE, I thought it was fake. You know, I thought it was a bunch of people acting and pretending in that circumstance to create a show. But then when I was watching it, like there's so much that goes into it, and so much of it is a craft, and it's very hard actually. It's not as simple as I thought it was. So watching it, I really got an understanding of what it is to be a wrestler, and something I probably will never do.
Yeah. What about you, Adam? Did you know anything about wrestling at all?
I knew it wasn't real, but I guess it could have explored more of how they would train to be a wrestler. It showed just how much of a performance they had to put on to make it look believable and real and entertaining at the same time. But it is like a really specific like sort of craft that they have to hone over time.
Yeah, I literally had no idea about anything to do with wrestling beyond like John Cena and that, and you know, is it called like The Undertaker or something?
Yes.
Mysterio? No, that's like a
Booyaka,
Spider-Man
booyaka.
villain.
That's Spider-Man, I believe.
Mysterio.
Oh,
Is Mysterio
Booyaka Booyaka 619.
Okay, cool. So I know a little bit, but yeah, just like
Rey
random
Mysterio.
little bits. Like, and people like when I was a kid, people would have the little like action figures and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, I didn't realize how much culture and history there is behind it. Which particularly I'd never heard of the family that the film's based on, the Von Erichs.
Yeah.
Which seem to be sort of icons, like big sort of stars, particularly of that era. Like what era was it?
It was the 70s, the 60s, 70s, and then the 80s.
Yeah.
I think the font of a lot of the shots, they brought out a font on the screen of like when he was going into a match. That was a very, to me, 80s theme. And obviously I was not alive in the 80s, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Were you not?
No, I know. Good skincare.
You got a baby face.
Yeah, what can I say?
Yeah, actually
I'm
like
actually
50, 40.
Yeah, 40 years old to the day. No, I'm messing. But I'd imagine it would be quite nostalgic to watch if you were from the 80s because there was so much in it.
Yeah.
Like the tight tank tops, the jeans. It's, you know what I mean?
Music.
The music, definitely.
It definitely created that atmosphere. Just with the edit and the filters and the cinematography, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess they used the same sort of cinematography that they would use for films that they made back then, which sort of created that sense of nostalgic.
Yeah, it definitely had like a grainy quality to it. And it started off with like black and white. Also, we should have said spoiler warning. We did put it on the clapperboard,
It's on the
so
clapperboard,
it should be okay.
so it's not our fault.
We'll put it in the description as well. But yeah, it started off in black and white, didn't it? Because it was sort of detailing, sort of setting the scene in terms of the father being the one that starts this tradition of all of his sons going into wrestling, and wrestling being the thing that binds the family together. And then it moves into more like the sort of current time where it was more like a sepia kind of tone. And like you said, with the fonts and all that, it did feel like I was sort of transported to that era a little bit, again, with all the music and the sort of like, it had this, I think with the editing as well, I don't know if you guys felt it, it felt like it had like this adrenaline like that had been injected into it.
Yes, there was the camera felt like another person. So a lot of the shots were handheld, and it was interesting because seeing that, you really felt like you were transported there. And there was a scene in particular, which was when he's in the wrestling match for the final. The camera, I thought initially, was the referee until the referee came into the shot because it was so close to them. It was like, it wasn't from a wide shot or a close up. It was just a medium shot, but it was following them around in the ring, and that gave it that extra spice. I'm going to call it spice.
Yeah. It gave it like the energy and the kind of like claustrophobic kind of feel that, you know, being in those stadiums where all these fans, because I don't know, I don't even know what modern day wrestling would look like in terms of how popular it is, but like these seem to be the places that all the locals, all the families, the community will go to. People would like wait for like after to get autographs from these stars.
It seems like a very cultural thing. Just a sense of the whole wrestling and how much like passion that the wrestlers have for it. You know, I really like the shot where Zac Efron's character, he'd be going on runs and training with the shots, with him running and whatnot and working out. With his like character's added commentary over the shots, which like represents his thoughts and him like trying to get out of his head by doing all of this, which I really enjoyed.
Was that near the start?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
They did enjoy like putting in all those sort of like Rocky Balboa kind of training montages and let's get ripped. And like with all that sort of rock music of that era, like blasting over the top of it. But yeah, we should talk about Zac Efron and the casting as well.
Okay, so the casting, I just wanted to say, I thought the chemistry between Lily James and Zac Efron was beautiful.
Yeah.
There was a scene where they were at a party and they go into the car and it goes, they become silhouettes. So you can't see their face, but you can just see an energy, and it's beautiful. I think the casting team did a really good job there because I knew as soon as I saw them, as soon as they met, when she talks to him outside of his match, I was just like, wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
What about the brothers as well?
The brothers. Yeah, you really got a sense of the brotherly love that they got for each other and how closely knitted the family were and supportive they were. I'd say the brothers were most supportive of each other, you know. The parents were a bit stone-hearted, stoic, and sort of like iron, like the Iron Claw.
You know, you did there.
Wow.
So,
Thank you.
Over time, when the brothers start to pass away one by one, it starts to have effect on Zac Efron's character, because they were the only ones who was really close with, and the sort of love and support that he had from the family. Unlike the sort of support and love that he got from his parents.
Yeah, there was quite a few scenes where, like I think it was the very first funeral scene, or after the very first brother passes away. The dad comes out and says to the boys, "Don't cry." I can't remember exactly what it is, but the idea is that you're a man. Don't cry. Don't cry for your brother.
He cared a lot. He cared more about the image of the family than he did about how they actually were and what they were going through. I saw signs of it in the mother, but I felt like she had to be stoic because that's what the father commanded. He was a very authoritative figure. He instilled this stoicness into his entire family, and I think that was the sort of downfall of his family, really, because they had all of this trauma going on and issues, and they had no way to talk about that or express that, and it led some of them to take their own lives as a result.
There was a moment in that which was interesting because it happens twice in the film. The first time it happens is at the start, and then the second time it happens is during the middle when Zac Efron's character is speaking to his mum, and the mum says, "You boys work it out between yourselves," which shows there's already a disconnect between the brothers and the parents, because the parents have this ideology of when you're born, you've got to be a wrestler. You saw it with Jeremy Allen White's character. He was an Olympian, and then he became a wrestler. And then the dad was like, "Oh, the Olympics didn't work out. You should be a wrestler." And he does, and he becomes a world champion, I believe. And obviously, his storyline doesn't end very well in terms of the story. He loses a leg and can't wrestle again. But the disconnect in it was something which you can think about, and it is.
I think he does wrestle again.
Does he wrestle
with
again?
A prosthetic foot.
Does he? Yeah, actually, yeah, he might. But then,
They only did that though to, I think, ultimately, to try and earn their father's attention and love, because the father, all he cared about was getting his sons to fulfill his dream that he failed
100%.
to accomplish.
A lot of his language is like, I wasn't given the chance that I deserved. He'll talk about like the family needs this belt because I didn't get this, so we need to do it.
It's about him.
But it was all about him. So like you were saying with Jeremy Allen White's character, was it Kerry? Like his discus career.
Yeah.
It's discus, isn't it? Yeah. Like I think it's something to do with a war or something that they cancel. Oh yeah, the USA doesn't go to the Moscow Olympics. And then the father comes over to him and basically says, "I wouldn't wish this on any of you," which is ridiculous because he's wished it on every single one of his sons, particularly like Kerry and Mike, who's the musician. Kind of forces them to go down this path when these guys already had options of other things that they could have ended up doing. Whereas the other brothers, David and Kevin, were kind of already committed to being wrestlers from the get-go.
Yeah.
The youngest brother was in music before he became a wrestler. And then when he did and he went into a coma, it was like that felt almost forced because he didn't want to go into wrestling, and he wasn't looked at as a brother until he did go into wrestling because he wasn't allowed to go to his the music gigs at the university.
No.
Even though he sneaked out and did. He didn't become a brother until he became a wrestler, because when you see him become a wrestler, there's the connection between him and his father, which was never there before. Because the father, which was interesting at the start of the film, ranked his brothers or favourite toys, which as someone who's a father, you just don't do that. You wouldn't go. If I was a dad, I would go to my kids and go, "You're not my favourite. You are. I hope you know that." But the ranks can change, because he said that as well.
I was like,
it's competitive. Everything he says was competitive, and it was wrestling was his life. Because he didn't achieve what he wanted to, so he wanted his kids to achieve what he wanted to achieve. So he put his philosophy into his kids, which was interesting, but at the same time, some of them, like the quote that was constantly referenced, "A man doesn't cry." It's like actually you see as they break down towards the end, a man does cry, and they have to, and when they feel trapped, the brothers go.
I feel like it was only at the very end when Zac Efron's character sees his two sons playing like him and his own brothers used to play.
Yeah.
That's what made him cry.
Yeah.
Because he had a whole lifetime of all of this pressure and hiding his emotions and trauma, and I think that at the very end just broke him. And it just that whole journey, just I felt like elicited such a response because there was so many audience members crying.
Oh wow.
Oh, one of them. I was ugly crying in the cinema.
But that's cinema, you know. It brings us together. It gives us an escape. It gives us an outlet to let us feel. You know, the whole cinema that I was in, including myself, were in tears, and that's the beauty of it. You know, and you wouldn't want it any other way, which is why cinema is here to stay and should stay.
I really liked the them sort of try and create closure by portraying the brothers being reunited in the afterlife. Including
what a powerful scene.
The eldest brother who died when he was 5 years old, him being there as well, which I thought was quite heartwarming.
When he jumps and he's got both his legs.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a super emotional film. I really didn't expect it. Didn't watch any trailers or anything. Just was like, okay, cool. A24. It's like my favorite kind of production company. Always was saying this before. Like always do very like kind of films with like an art house kind of aspect to them.
They take risks.
And then, they take risks definitely.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're combining wrestling with like Zac Efron, like
I
sort of
think
go-to A-list Hollywood stars.
the reason this movie was so popular because it portrayed machoism and manliness and all of this and what it's like to be a man and how it resonated with most men today because of how we've been trained and forced to hide our emotions and be stoic, and it does have an effect on mental health.
Of course.
And I think this movie has really brought attention to that sort of that sort of, you know.
You don't see the suffering.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a great run on May the 26th, and it's 10K run. Me and a couple of other stars are going to do it, and I'm going to, and they're running for certain charities, and I'm going to be running for mental health. And this movie is just another one of the reasons why it's such an important topic.
And also, this movie really depicts well that generational trauma and teaching that has been passed down. If you think in terms of men have been taught that this is the way how to be a man, when like the values of like masculinity are changeable, they're not rooted in like biology or anything necessarily. So like towards the end of the film, when it is that scene where he does cry, which was also an interesting bit of trivia that I read, was that the director said to Zac Efron, you can't cry in any scene until that very last one.
That makes so much sense.
And that's the moment where he has that line which is like, you know, his young kids run up to him like, "Dad, why are you sad?" And he says, "I'm sorry, men don't cry." And then he's like, "You can cry, it's okay. We cry too."
And then he says, "I used to be a brother."
I used to be a brother. It was like,
You can be our brothers.
it was one of those moments, again, you're in the cinema and you're just like, frog in the throat, just like, I kind of want to bawl right now. It was...
All of this, all of this trauma and just bad stuff that's happened, they basically said that the family was cursed.
Yeah, it took 5... Is it 5 or 4? Because there was another
4.
Why was it? Why
brother
was
that wasn't included in the film. He also died as well.
5, yeah.
Why did they believe the family was cursed? Was it because of? Remind me. Was it because of the?
Because of all the the father didn't get the opportunities that he wanted, and then that was, I want to say, one of the originating bits of it, and then obviously the oldest brother passed away when he was 5,
Mm.
and then all the other stuff that happens, it just mounts to it. Like in the toilet scene, which I thought was one of the most powerful scenes in the film, because of the arc from the fear to excitement and the foreshadow of actually his intestines have ruptured.
So many
What was going to happen.
terrible things. You know, this curse had a grip on the family like an iron claw.
Yeah.
You know, and I loved how the whole thing just represented that.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
And then Zac Efron's character Kevin, who's
Strong grip.
the only person that survived out of the brothers.
Yeah.
Chose to break that cycle by selling the wrestling arena and stopping that. Although he did continue in his real life carrying on wrestling, but chose his kids to have a different name. They weren't the Von Erichs anymore.
Yeah.
You know, at some point,
I think the curse came from them having such a strong grip on themselves and not showing their emotions and allowing it to get out of control.
Do you think as well, when you think about something, it's almost like you're manifesting it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that story of if you tell someone to look at all certain colour things in the room and then say, okay, well, what's purple in the room? And they can't say anything. Would you say it's like that in terms of, because they're so focused on all the negatives, they're not seeing all the positives that they've done, because they achieve a lot.
Yeah.
You know, even the father, he does achieve a lot. And then when his kids grow up and they become world champions, that's a lot. You know, not everyone can be a world champion, and he's had multiple people of his kids
but this is the
being
thing.
world champions.
It's a kind of question. It's just something I'm thinking about in terms of the gig that I'm doing at the moment as well. Is what is the definition of success? Is it emotional intelligence, or is it like gains in terms of material stuff? Do you know what I mean? So they get these titles, they get this image, the family gets the belt, but none of these kids are taught how to deal with their emotions at all. Even the mother, you get little hints of her like trying to suppress it again, like with the dress scene.
Wow,
And there's one moment where she goes, "I painted that painting," and all the brothers are like, "Well, it's Mike, isn't it?" He's like, "I didn't know you used to paint." And it's like just all these like
And then she paints again.
ways of expressing how you're feeling internally in all of the family have been pushed down and then come out in ways which are negative in terms of on that person and on the people around them.
Yeah. I think that's like not being able to express yourself, because the father used to be a musician before he went into
I
sport,
forgot about
I
that.
forgot about it.
and that's the mother loved that, and then she hated it when he stopped, when he gave that up and went into sport. And the son used to be a musician as well, but she didn't like that because it reminded her of the father when he used to play music. And I feel like that symbolized them expressing themselves. And as soon as that stopped, I think this curse happened.
It was such a heavy film. Definitely, I don't know if you guys felt it like a film of two halves. Like the first half there was a bit of tension, but it was quite like epic. Like I felt like as I was watching it, I was like, oh, I really want to do a workout.
Yeah.
I was watching all these training montages.
And it's like Baywatch all over again. Zac Efron, I thought I'd seen you before.
Yeah. Just like even more ripped this time.
Innit? Yeah. Massive.
And like all the music's pumping and the crowd's going wild, and it's like the sort of like the image and the fame and the excitement, and they had that outlet with each other in terms of the brothers, but they still didn't really know how to deal with it.
Where do you think
It's
the
only when the
pivotal,
brothers sorry?
where do you think the pivotal moment is where it switches from the excitement of the film and the wedding and everything like that to the dad announcing David's death at the table? Like, where do you think the switch is?
I think for me, when it was clear that the father was going to start pitting the brothers against each other, because then that brotherhood started to fall apart a bit.
Yeah.
As soon as he was like, David, you're the one who's going to go for the championship.
Yeah.
Then there was like a little link that was severed, even slightly, and then obviously the death happened. It just like was a domino effect of all this sort of.
And this all came from a loveless father.
Yeah.
Do you think it was loveless, or do you think
They
it was
all
just like
compete.
tough love?
They all competed for his attention and his love, and he never took responsibility for any of their deaths.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
You know, he basically blamed themselves. You know, every time they had an argument, he'd say, "Oh, sort it out between yourselves."
Well, yeah, when Jeremy Allen White's character commits suicide, then
And
Yeah.
he said, "Sort it out between yourselves." Zac Efron's character asked his dad, "Just keep an eye on him," and he didn't.
and he's like, you
And he-
keep an eye on
He
him.
he blew his own brains out.
Basically, yeah. But the thing that, in terms of that scene, in terms of the dad, was when the dad said, "No, this is your fault. You were the one who he called. You were the one who was meant to help him." It's like then he's taking all responsibility away from himself. But that, to me, is because it hurts too much to take responsibility. Because he's got 5 kids and 4 of them have passed away. You know, and that he obviously loves them all. Otherwise, he wouldn't be training them. You know.
And that comes from a weakness. You know, for someone who's all strong and macho-ness, to not be able to take responsibility for your own wrongdoings and blame your own child for the death of his brothers, that's weakness.
Well, that's because in inverted commas, a man doesn't cry. You know, he constantly says it in the film.
There's not crying, and then there's not taking responsibility for your actions. And I think that for me was
I think it was interesting that it didn't get any sort of like it wasn't nominated for Oscars or any of these like the sort of main big awards. Do you know what I mean?
It had 32 nominations and 3 awards
Oh,
that I saw.
were they more like local?
But
awards
one of
and
them
stuff?
was for the stunts. I don't know what the other 2 were for, but I remember reading about them, and one of them was for the stunts, which makes sense because the stunts in the film were great.
Insane.
You know, some of the shots were great, and the stunts in particular, like they're hard to do. You know, they look simple because they're so complicated. But just something that popped into my mind saying that was the color palette, right? The first half of the film, like you were saying, is more of an excitement, and I can also see that in the tone of the film. It's got a golden tone. Every scene is like it's peachy. It's got this goldenness about it where it's like it's summer. You know, everything's going well. It's summer. It's not winter. You've not got seasonal depression or anything like that. It's summer. You're happy. Things aren't going right, but you're not focusing on them. You're focusing on getting to the top. And then when they get to the top, for me, I don't remember seeing the golden tone again. The golden palette which was there had disappeared. It became a lot darker and a lot more as it was, rather than with a what would the word be, saturation?
Yeah, I think so.
On top of it. If we were to take all of that we've talked about and give it a score and give an overview of the film, out of 10 we'll do.
10.
Not out of 100.
Not
I was
100.
thinking out of 100. But no, we'll do out of 10 because it makes more sense. Out of 10, what would you give it and why? If you could describe the film in a sentence, what would it be?
I think I'd give it an 8.
An 8.
8 out of 10.
Interesting.
Felt like a very solid, very topical conversation around toxic masculinity and generational trauma. And for me, as a man now, thinking about, okay, how do I break cycles of values that have been taught to me, not necessarily by family, by society in general, so that these things don't keep happening.
Yeah, definitely. It was a long sentence.
Yeah.
A lot of comments.
I'll give it a 9.3.
Oh, wow. He's gone high.
Because of how it explores a topic that has never been explored before, and I think there's a whole lot more exploration that needs to be talked about.
Yeah,
definitely. It was definitely. For myself, I'll give it an 8.3. I thought it was beautifully crafted. It was a masterpiece in my opinion. It was authentic, and and heartbreaking.
Mm.
And it gives a almost two sides of the coin performance from both the lead Zac Efron and also the supportings. 8.3, 8 and 9.3.
Yeah.
That's not bad for a film. It's
Yeah.
not bad for a
Pretty
biopic as
solid.
well. Yeah.
Going for a take two. Action.
Right, so yeah, now we're back. I think, that's a pretty heavy topic, so we're going to have a bit of levity introducing this and play a little drama game. What's it called again? Categories Association?
Is it Film Association?
Film Association.
Yeah,
So
something like
basically,
that, yeah.
we'll name an actor and we'll go around in a little circle. You can play along as well and see how long we last in terms of films that we can name. As soon as someone doesn't name one, you have to drop out, and then it's a little
1v1.
stand-off between... No, I'm not saying you guys. Maybe I'll be in the stand-off. I don't know.
I better be in the stand.
Yeah. But yeah, so first actor that we're going to do is DiCaprio. Nice, easy one to start off with.
Nice.
You can go first, though.
Great. Case of the Flower Moon.
Inception.
Shutter Island. That's you.
Yeah.
Oh, right, my bad.
We're gonna go with The Aviator.
Oh, nice.
Blood Diamond.
Ooh, Titanic.
Wow, that's a good one to be fair.
I feel like he's trying to kill for time.
No, I'm not. We're gonna go with. Oh, what's it called? This Boy's Life. There we go.
I knew you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
going to say that. Romeo and Juliet.
What's eating Gilbert Grape?
I was gonna go for that. No. Okay.
I feel like we need to be quick fire.
Come on.
Yeah. Okay. Count down from 10.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0.
Yeah, I'm out. Great. That's great.
The Great Gatsby.
I'm out, to be fair.
You've won.
The reason I was counting down so quick was because I wanted to
There's so
be out
many.
first.
There's so many I can think
Yeah.
of.
We were awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet there were.
I mean, you were great.
So many you can think
You had
of.
like 20 more under you lot. So yeah, basically in take two, we'll always talk to the guests that we come bring in. We'll ask them questions about their life, how they got into the industry, just getting their take on a bunch of tangents and random stuff that we end up chatting about and have a little chinwag about. Obviously, we are the guests today, so I actually don't know much about. I mean, I know about you guys, but I don't know like how you got into.
Who are you? Have I met before?
Who am I?
Have I met you before?
Who are you again?
What's your name? Matthew?
You're in like famous stuff,
They
right?
just dragged me off the
Wait,
street.
is that guy in Coronation Street?
No way.
Am I?
So yeah, here's a good question.
No, it's
how did
funny.
you get in Corrie?
How did I get into it? Do you want the long version or do you want the short version?
Tell us your life. Tell us how you got into acting.
Well, my life story.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want me to go from high school or do you
Just go for it.
a long journey?
From
wherever you
Okay,
feel
I
like
grew
it.
up doing acting at the Royal Exchange Theatre. I was
Name
part of
drop.
a young company
Nice.
where I got onto an acting training program. They were touring from London, looking for young actors from low backgrounds to break into the industry. I was like 17 at the time. They said, "Oh, we don't usually make, we don't usually take under 18-year-olds on, but for you, we'll make an exception." So I was like one of the youngest on their program ever. Where I went to London for the first time to perform a bunch of monologues to casting directors and agents.
Cool.
And also here in Manchester, where I met with Darren Gordon, who is a director, acting teacher, and as well as an agent. So he taught me acting, sent me off to auditions where I booked jobs on dramas, ITV, whatnot. During this time, I dropped out of college because I wasn't really learning anything.
What we
or
studied
enjoying
at
it.
college?
Acting. But
Should have guessed that one, to be fair.
yeah, but they were
You were
like,
acting at college?
yeah,
No way.
but they were like, oh, we don't. You. They were like, oh, the high likelihood is most of you won't make it. So here's how to be a cameraman. And I was like,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm already working, so why am I here?
it's very motivational, isn't it?
So I dropped out. But yeah, I just went to auditions, travelled, working, and eventually got onto Coronation Street.
What was the I guess, like breakout role, where like you kind of booked that first gig that kind of gave some momentum and sort of domino effect that kind of led to Corrie?
Very first job that I booked was with ITV on a crime drama called The Bay.
Ah, I know the Bay.
Yeah.
The Bay's where I'm from. Not
Morecambe.
Morecambe.
You're
yeah.
from Morecambe?
Long live
Are
Morecambe.
you?
Bloody hell, I feel sorry for you. I mean,
I was
no,
thinking
it's a great place.
It's up there with Blackpool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It had a good era, an amazing era, like golden era with like seaside town holidays and stuff. And then it
What happened?
dipped a little bit
Just a little
because
bit,
everyone
yeah.
started flying to Spain or wherever.
Everyone just left.
But now we've got Tyson Fury, so it's on the rise
I
again.
better not get cancelled for slating Morecambe. I apologise, Morecambe.
Tyson Fury's
It's
gonna
almost
come
as
to
good
you.
as Blackpool, actually.
But yeah, I was
We
yeah
got two cities coming through now.
I was in that for 2 seasons.
Ace.
Got onto a kid show called Secret Life of Boys with CBBC. That was in Ireland. Did a crime drama on Amazon Prime, and that was in Bulgaria.
Cool.
Nice.
What was it? How long were you filming on that?
About 2 weeks, I think. Where I played like one of a young version of the leads, who's like the secret double agent who infiltrates ISIS, and he works for MI6.
Sick.
Oh, wow.
But I play him as a kid,
Nice.
so that was pretty fun to do.
How old would you?
And I would
how
speak
old
in
were you
Arabic.
then? How old were you then?
I was 19, I think. Yeah, I was 19.
Cool.
Yeah, I think. And
It's
then
all a blur now.
and then
Long time ago.
and then I did another crime drama on Hulu, which was in Belgium. I really enjoyed working on that one.
And then when did Corrie happen?
No, I'm confused. Amazon Prime was, I played a Syrian refugee kid who helped a CIA agent save these refugees from their parents from
Wow.
a concentration camp. Hulu was a secret double agent, which I enjoyed working on. One of the directors, one of my favorites to work with, he was called Oded Ruskin, Israeli director, but he allowed us to improv and ad lib, and it was just really fun to work with.
That's good.
And then I got onto Coronation Street.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Sorry for that long tangent.
No, man, interesting. I've still got like 20
Yeah.
questions that I'd want to ask.
I've known you for quite a while, and I didn't know half of that, so that was really interesting.
What about you, Ben Stevenson-Langley?
So I'm going to see how quickly I can say it, because it's quite a long story, to be fair. So in primary school, I got bullied really badly.
You got what?
Bullied.
I didn't.
Yeah.
You know when someone says something like that's emotional, and you.
No, yeah.
So I'm deaf as well, and then I'll be like, "Sorry, what?" And then they have to repeat the emotional thing
Yeah.
out loud again.
It's like
and
crying,
no,
that's it.
I didn't mean that. Wasn't me joking. I wasn't trying
No,
to
yeah.
upset
No,
you
so-
further.
So I got bullied in primary school. It wasn't a great experience, and I wasn't allowed out at lunchtime because of how the severity of it. Even though it was only primary school, it was bad. So I remember in year 6, when it was break and lunchtime, I had this teacher, and what a great teacher he was. He bought an iPad for me and had this green screen app on it. And he turned the old library in my primary school to a wall with a green screen on it. So I made a load of mini films just by myself.
Cool.
I played loads of different characters, and that's really what got it started. And then in high school, you know, I got my first agent at the start of high school, and booked my first job, which I want to say was a film called Teddy. I think that was the first one. I think that was the first film. I booked that, and then after that, I moved on to a couple of other things. Did a couple commercials. Did a commercial for Amazon, commercial for JD, commercial for a company called 1&1, but you might know it as Ionis. I was in a TV show on ITV called Butterfly during my time at high school, but that was a very, very small role. And then I did a film last year called A Victimless Crime with a good friend of mine, who is actually also on Waterloo Road, called Adam Ali. You may know him as Kai. Is it Kai?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did that with him. And then this year's been pretty fun so far. We've had this exciting project, which has obviously been announced now, hence the episode being out. But yeah, there's some exciting stuff this year coming up, which, like I said at the start, I've got to keep my mouth shut about, but good things. But that's how I got into acting. But it all stemmed from wanting a way to express emotions. I guess also all forms of art, I like that. You're trying to express yourself through whatever it is, drawing, films, filmmaking, singing. So that's my life really. That's a short version of it, which didn't sound very short, but it was very
just
short.
summarise. Wait, how old are you? 20?
20.
You're
Yes.
20?
Yes, I'm 20.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not
So
teenager.
summarise 20 years in, 2 minutes, 3 minutes paragraph. Yeah, it's difficult,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah, very, very short, but yeah.
And what about yourself, Matthew Khan?
I always find it so formal when people call me Matthew. And
Matthew
basically,
Khan, Mr.
it's
Khan.
like my mum calls me Matthew, and that's about it.
Oh.
I'm my agent, and people on set. But that's until they know me as Matt. Because I don't know, I had this moment where I was like, what do I call myself? What's the name that my professional career will be like forever known as? And then I was like, what actors are there? There's Matthew McConaughey. That's a Matthew. There's Matt Smith. That's a Matt. There's Matthew McFadden. That's a Matthew.
There's Matthew Khan.
You do
There's
look a little
there's
bit like
Matthew
There's a
Khan.
Matthew
you
Khan.
do look a little bit like Matt Smith.
I look a little bit like Matt Smith.
A little bit, yeah.
There's
I
Matt
think
Damon.
that's a good thing.
There's Matt Damon.
There's Matt Damon.
It's a good thing.
Matt Khan. Matt Khan just feels, I don't know, Matthew Khan.
Matthew Khan sounds better.
Feels like it's got more room to play different kind of roles. Do you know what I mean?
Matthew Khan.
But anyway, acting. So actually, originally, I wanted to become a doctor or a psychologist. And then, similar to you, dude, you just go through some trauma and you go through
lot
some
of trauma.
stuff. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone does. And then it's just about how you sort of deal with that and understand it and find a way to express it or get out of yourself for a little bit. And I was a proper shy kid
Me too.
once I got into high school. Primary school, I was weird and having fun. And then
Same.
high school, I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, literally.
But my mum, because mums know best, like,
They do.
she's just like, yeah, you need to get more confidence, kid.
Mhm.
She said it in a nice way than that.
Yeah.
But she took me to a drama club. And I remember being so nervous. Like, I used to get so insanely nervous before, like, performances.
We all did, to be fair.
Yeah, I still do. Like,
Yeah, it's
and
healthy.
I
You
was
should
at
do
Waterloo Road the other day, and I was like, I feel like this could be a panic attack. Am I having a panic attack? And then once you start thinking that, your brain goes, yeah, you are.
You're having a panic attack now.
But like, what a great way to try and like deal with your issues, to know that you'll still be safe despite having or maybe not having a panic attack, and also putting yourself in a place where you are uncomfortable, as opposed to just retreating and from hiding away from that fear and insecurities that I had as a teenager. Drama club. It was at the Dukes in Lancaster.
Oh yeah.
They're amazing. I had this teacher called Louis Ingham, and I remember one time we were reading Hamlet, and she was like, "Do you want to read Hamlet?" I was like, "Okay, sure." And we got to the speech to be or not to be,
Yeah,
and I remember what's
I
that?
was waiting for that bit.
It's standard, it's
iconic.
classic. But again, I didn't really know much about acting, but my instinct was to just say it as a normal person. And I think she saw that as someone like actually actively questioning, am I going to be alive or not? Which is kind of the essence of that speech. And I think she saw me kind of go, just natural instinct as a kid, be like, oh, he's a bit different. And then at the end, she was like, have you ever thought about becoming an actor? And I was like, nope. And then I craved more safety for a while after that, still wanting to be a doctor or something with more financial stability.
Yeah.
because this career is an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. A lot of challenges.
And then I was like, you know what? Got to take your shot.
Might as well.
And now I'm here. I've done some TV gigs. I've done some theatre gigs.
Talk to us about that. What gigs?
Wow. So yeah, I mentioned at the start I did Good Girls Guide to Murder. That was filmed last year and will be coming out this year. I had a really cool part to play in that. I guess one of the first proper TV gigs that I did was Doctors. I had like a main storyline in that for an episode. And you just like learn so much like as you go. What's weird is learning in front of people that will be watching your performance and potentially like judging it. Do you know what I mean? But like you just got to accept that, you know, maybe some of what you do will be golden, some of what you do will be okay, and some of what you do might not land. But like that's the risk you got to take to be able to do what we want to do. But yeah, Good Girls Guide to Murder last year, coming out this year. Very excited for that. There's a big fan base for it, like big TikTok.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's
fan
off a
base.
book, isn't it? So it's based off a book, isn't
It's
it?
based off a book. It's got Emma Myers in. She was in Wednesday. She did a film with like Ed Helms in December. And yeah, I've got Waterloo Road, which by the time this comes out, will have been announced, hopefully, next Tuesday. He's a fun character. I can't say anything more than that, to be fair. But yeah, art, just like acting, whatever, finding ways to express yourself, to understand yourself, and also understand other people, because you're literally playing another person. And if it's a film like The Iron Claw, you can find ways to understand yourself whilst also helping the audience to understand themselves and express themselves too. So there's this like
A familiarity, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a
Become familiar.
it's a two-way
with
street.
yourself
You know
in
what I
that.
mean? By us doing what we do, other people can do what, like, also understand themselves, and hopefully through them understanding themselves, we can also foster that change too.
Well, that's it. When like I was a kid, the reason cinema is so important for me, and it's the reason I am an actor, is because when you go into a cinema, you're not thinking about anyone else. Your life almost goes on hold,
Yeah,
and all you're thinking about is the film.
put that phone away. Do you know what I mean?
Like what's gonna happen. You don't know what's gonna happen, and you're in the moment. You're not thinking about what's happening at school, what's happening in your home life, what's happening in the world. You're not thinking about any of that. For a few hours, you get to just be in the moment and just enjoy and feel, and that's powerful.
It teaches you about things that words can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, we could sit here all day and try and work out a way to phrase it, but like you just can't, because it's not something that the mind can do. It's something that this does.
Yeah.
It's all in the heart. It's emotions. You can't forge emotions. They're just there.
Why we are the way we are.
Exactly. And on that note, I think that's a good time to wrap.
That was a nice sort of like somber kind of like beautiful sentimental note to end on.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been great to have you guys. It's been great as a host and you guys as hosts. And I look forward to the next episode, which will be out in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks.
Yes, it is bi-weekly. But next time, there won't be 3 of us, there'll be 4 of us. There will be a guest. And we can't say who the guest is yet.
It's a mystery guess.
But what we will say is you'll be excited. So stay tuned, guys. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe, share it. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Check out our socials at Going For A Take on Twitter and Instagram. Have a good day, guys.